We can. I want to have a fair conversation with you, and it really depends what that looks like to you, sort of the way that I constrain myself. So if we have to play questions in order for it to feel fair for you, that's great. If we can just keep it open, I'm cool with that too. But let me know if you want to move into questions because it's less aggressive. I've listened to a lot of information about a Calvinist tradition that is through the Princeton University and through a person called Cornelius Van Til and a couple other people, Greg Bonson, things like this. I've listened to a lot of these people, and I think that you were at a thing that Jeff Durham, is that right? Was that? And so I think that's why I think that Durban. I think that's why I think that research is going to be what I'm talking about here, because I think that you're following similar ideas to what Jeff Durbin is following, which follows a sort of Bonson interpretation of what Van Til was doing with a transcendental argument for God. Am I right in all those conclusions? Like, have I gone off the track pretty hard here?
No.
Excellent. Okay. So, if I understand correctly, you are open to a criticism, an internal criticism of your worldview, because it seems like Van Til spent a lot of time saying that the proper refutation of another worldview is an internal criticism. Is that right? Am I reading too much into that?
No, I think that is one of the reasons why we would reject a lot of different worldviews, other than our, I guess, as we look at the philosophical religious landscape, we would certainly argue that all other worldviews end up refuting themselves.
Excellent. And so if you found your worldview refuting itself, that would give you pause, at least. I'm not saying what it would make you do, but it would be unexpected.
In that case, we'd have no basis to say that worldviews need to be logical or consistent or anything else if there's no basis for the idea that we need to be logical and consistent, right? So if there is no basis for that, then it's like, in a sense, you're cutting off the branch on which you're sitting. I mean, so if without a basis in your own view of things for things like logic and consistency, then we would argue borrowing from Christianity to argue against it, right?
So you're talking. Okay. So I've never heard a Van Tilian explain sort of why there is that dichotomy, why only a Trinitarian biblical worldview provides what is... Well, first of all, let's talk about the difference between epistemology and ontology. Ontology is what exists. It's sort of this causal chain from the first mover, the prime mover. Take your time if you want to address them. Take your time. There's a large group.
I got them all right.
I think
so. Ontology sort of, I think I can see ontology as the description of the causal chain from that which first began, and I think that is contrasted to an idea of epistemology, which is why this self believes it's also a causal chain, but it's working the other way. Why this self believes what it believes, that something caused something that caused this self to be aware of it. And so it's the same causal chain from a different view. Do you see what I'm trying to describe there?
Yeah, more or less, I think.
Okay.
And there's a difference, like if you look at the difference between a classical apologetic and a more Vantilian or presuppositional apologetic. The classical apologetic starts with you and says, you exist,
That's correct.
and then works through a number of different steps to, if anything at all exists, God must exist. So that's the classical approach.
Right, and I would describe that as an epistemological chain of because of this, we know this, and because we know this, we know this, and that brings us back to the prime mover.
And everyone does know that they exist. I mean, everyone has knowledge according to the Christian worldview.
It seems to be hard to deny.
Everyone has an awareness of themselves and of God as well, according to Christian scriptures. But,
according to Christian scriptures, and I would like to talk about that.
I would say according to all that is valid in our experience as well. So but you're saying there's a difference between an ontological approach and an epistemological approach.
Well, no, because I think our approach is epistemological, but I think it has to do with more of how we're talking about the ideas. Is we can talk about it because God exists, He has created these things, and because He has created these things. So we can talk about it ontologically, but we can also talk about it. We can talk about our experience, how we know these things. When we ask, "How do you know that thing?" It's an epistemological idea. It means beginning with the self. What happened to the self that caused that belief, and is that reliable? And so I think a confusion of ontology and epistemology has been a sort of consistent criticism of Van Til for a while. And then I think another very, very consistent criticism of Van Til is a sort of tendency to talk beyond the understanding. And I don't mean to say obfuscate, and I don't mean to say gishgala, but he is dense. He's hard to understand is a very common idea of what Van Til was doing. And Bahnsen says that he can help people through it and so, I do want to try to avoid that thing of like when Van Til gives his transcendental argument, I'm not sure it's a transcendental argument according to what Kant was saying those are. So the idea that we existors, we agents, must confess that the conditions of our existence must be real because we exist, okay? And I think that's a transcendental argument that here is a thing, thus the thing that causes that to be possible must be true. I think that the Christian jump from ours is the only thing because all others are subject to an internal criticism. I don't think that, first of all, I don't think that internal criticism has been done for all other positions. And secondly, I don't think that a presuppositionalist is open to an internal criticism. I think that they've sort of insulated themselves from the tool that they use of others.
Well, and I would say that that's true of every worldview, of everyone that holds in the worldview. That's true of you. You've insulated yourself from criticism of your view, right? I mean, you're not neutral. You're not. I mean, no one is. This is the neutral ground fallacy. Like that. And I'm like, let's step together into neutral ground, and then we'll have this discussion.
And then work from there.
No one is neutral, so you can't. There's no neutral ground.
I think that's an assertion. I'm not sure I've seen that proved. Another thing that I might want to see proved is that arbitrary is meaningless. I'm not sure that I've seen that proved. It's a thing that presuppositionalists seem to bring a lot. And I'm not sure that I've seen a good argument for the truth of that. And it is one of the things that I was asking Jeff Durham, when he was there. Durbin, my apologies. Jeff Durbin.
Turbin with the D.
Sorry. He was saying, if things are arbitrary, then they are meaningless. Please take your time. No, don't worry about any interruptions. And then I asked him to please explain that one, and he kind of never did. He took me through some very, very early Van Tilian ideas, and it was very, the way that he was treating me was very condescending. He was not trying to engage me with as a theologian who does this thing on the street just like him. He was trying to explain to me things from the beginning from a Vantillian point of view in a condescending manner, and was not answering my questions. My questions of whether or not is it American value to mix politics and religion, and then after he was talking, whether or not it's true that a system created arbitrarily would thus be meaningless. I don't think I follow either of those arguments.
The basis of your worldview is arbitrariness.
Yeah.
And if I allow one arbitrary kind of assertion in the sense that is a basis for your worldview, like I just arbitrarily decide that I can know stuff because I know stuff. I mean, then that's a huge problem. I mean, some stuff is like, let's say you decide to have ice cream instead of a cookie for dessert. That may be arbitrary. Is it meaningless? It's like, well, I don't. That's not
There's
really
a
what
relative
we're talking about, right?
Right.
But when we're talking about our worldview, if our worldview is based upon I've just arbitrarily decided.
Okay.
I mean,
but it's dangerous to arbitrarily pick a worldview. But I'm asking if this reality was created by an arbitrary entity who just created it in an arbitrary way, I think we're describing the Christian point of view. I think the Christian God is that. I think he is arbitrary in the laws that he creates, the law of the excluded middle, the law of gravity, the law of mercy and justice. That all seems arbitrary. Because if it's not arbitrary, then he's doing it for a reason. He's doing it because of a law that he is subject to. If he's sovereign to all laws, then the laws are arbitrary.
I don't see that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because if he's, but say what you're saying one more time. So if the laws.
So there are some laws that he doesn't break.
The laws aren't. If there's no law above him.
Yeah, if he's sovereign to all laws.
Right.
Then all the laws that exist are the ones that he has chosen to exist. And that seems to describe arbitrariness.
But you understand that his laws are a reflection of his character. And and
the character that he calls is good. But I'm not sure that we can prove that any more than we can prove that his character is arbitrary.
Well, we can't prove anything without the God who is the God of knowledge, the God of truth, God.
So the preconditions of proof. You can't prove anything without the preconditions of truth,
and that's an assertion. But I would.
No. That seems.
If I ask you, how do you know anything for certain?
Right. I would agree that the preconditions
even
of
beyond
certainty.
Your own existence, you have to get into kind of a fuzzy. Well, it might all just be a dream.
Correct. And the idea of it might all we might be brains and vats. Hello there. We're having a conversation about some things, and I don't mean to exclude you from it.
Oh, no
you
problem.
told me your name and I've forgotten it. Tell me again.
Joel.
Joel, I'm recording this. I'm going to edit it and post it up later.
Okay.
If you have a problem with that, please do make it known.
Okay.
So we're talking about the idea of specifically right now arbitrariness, and how the triune God of the Bible is not engaged in arbitrariness. I think the Reformed idea that an arbitrary existence would be meaningless is a description of the Reformed understanding of existence. So that's sort of what we were saying. And Patrick here was saying that when we think we can be convinced of something, that shows that the preconditions of you were in the middle of saying something. I don't mean to.
Well, we would say that God does everything for His own glory, for His own, and of course that seems like an arbitrary.
Allow me to try to talk to these people. Hello there. Can we have a short conversation about religion? This is my friend Patrick. He's a Reformed Christian, and I am a Pastafarian.
What does this have to do with religion?
What does this have to do with religion, Patrick?
It's just a fun little town.
It's really here just
Give it
to.
a shot.
I already got the first one. I'm on to the second.
Okay, what did you get for number one?
Shopped and stopped.
Okay. What about number two?
How many of each animal did Moses take in ark? Oh, yeah.
2 or 7?
3. Spell the word silk out loud.
S-I-L-K. What do cows drink? Milk.
Okay. Number 4. What is the name of the raised print that deaf people use?
Braille.
So we want to do the triangles?
Yeah.
All right. So what color is this?
Pink.
Okay. I can call it pink, and people want to read this one. So let's read the pink triangle.
What's
And the orange one.
bird in the hand?
And the green one.
Paris.
Okay. So how did he do, man?
You have failed all of these.
So arbitrariness, I mean, you realize that the Reformed view, whatever God does, he does for his glory, which, as I was saying, may seem like it's a narcissistic, proud kind of, everything's focused on me, but as the creator of everything, as there's nothing greater than God. So God being focused on himself is not a problem.
So I think
What else would he be ultimately focused on? I mean, he is God. He is
Right.
he is the ultimate, and so he does everything for his glory. Though this may not be a satisfying answer to the person who has not been granted faith and repentance yet. It is.
I just don't see a difference between that and arbitrariness, because this description that God does the things that promote his glory, it seems like it is obedience to a law. It seems like the reason that you would do a thing is because of the law of glory or something. And so it seems like if you're the entity choosing which laws are real, if you live in a place where no laws are real because none are created, then the ones that you create are an arbitrary decision unless you're coerced into creating some, unless there is a law of glory that he has to follow. And so I'm saying because he is the point of decision of creation, I don't see any difference between that and arbitrariness. And so that's what I'm saying.
But an arbitrary thing would be you're doing it for no reason.
But I mean, I think that's literally what we're describing in his case, that there is nothing reasonably that motivates him, because there is no law that he's following, like we are following the law of gravity and the law of time and all these other laws that we are following.
He's motivated by a love for truth, justice. He's motivated to demonstrate his love and his mercy. I mean, the motivations that God has are, we could certainly talk about it for a long time. And in one sense, we would not know what his motivations were if he didn't tell us. So that's just like, if you don't tell me your motivations, I can say, well, Mitch is out here to do X, Y, or Z. Like I'm reading your heart.
Right.
I can't do that unless you tell me.
Right.
And it's the same thing with God. We would not know anything about God's motivations unless he told us.
I'm fine with that. But that seems
Right.
a little further down the ontological pipeline, because God has a nature. I suppose it seems like we're describing a creator of all things who is co-eternal to his own nature. And his own nature causes him to do things. So either he is subject to his nature, or he's sovereign to his nature, or he is his nature.
Well,
and I think in all cases we're either describing, we're engaging in the Euthyphro dilemma, which is, if God does things because they're good, I can just do things because they're good, and we're worshiping the same good. But then the other side of it is, if we're just doing it because God says, then we're describing an arbitrary morality.
Yeah, God is a standard of goodness. But see, I mean, what is the definition of arbitrary? It's like it's something that is done. It could be one way, it could be the other way. For God, it's not. It could be one way or the other way.
But then,
like if you think that God could have said, well, the rule is that you have to lie all the time,
uh-huh,
or the rule is that you have to hate your neighbor.
uh-huh.
Well, he wouldn't say that. He couldn't say that. It's just like it says God cannot lie. I mean, so because God is a God of truth.
But the
You shall not
answer to the
lie
question of why can't he say
it comes
that?
out of his character.
Right. It comes out of his nature, which he cannot change. And so it seems like because it is true that the nature of the God is a good nature, God must do good. It seems like we've described a law there that God is subject to. Take your time, take your time, take your time. Hello there. My name's Mitch. This is Patrick. He's a Reformed Christian. This is his thing. We like to have conversations about religion. Are you very religious-minded?
I mean, conversation and trying to persuade one another, that is not only consistent with the worldview, with the Christian worldview, but I would say it really is the only worldview that can make sense of persuasion and the need for it. I mean, I understand you
I understand that claim.
No.
I just think that when laying down that argument, there's a very large jump.
That there is a truth. There is a truth that we are both trying to get to.
I am a truth
there is
seeker.
such a thing as truth.
Yeah, I value it.
And that we are not just like there's no point in having a conversation if it's all just a matter of preference. Like I like Coke, you like Pepsi.
Then we would be wasting our time talking about it.
If it was just preference,
Okay.
right? But
Sure.
it's not just preference.
Right. Because I'm not trying to explain to you why I don't like strawberries and why you shouldn't like strawberries. We are trying to talk about why we're convinced of certain worldviews.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And that's why, like the Apostle Paul, he reasoned with people in the marketplace.
It seems so.
He preached, but he also was very big on defending the faith. Okay, so and this is one of the things that Van Til was trying to recapture, and I honestly have not read any other than maybe a few quotes of Van Til
it's
because
okay.
he is difficult.
No, absolutely, he is.
But
It seems,
but
yeah, it's
Bonson
very,
and other people, I think, have helped me.
Yes.
Kind of understand it, and he's no doubt, like the teacher. I mean, Bonson didn't just slavishly, Van Til is not inspired in the biblical sense.
The things that he's saying are not scripture.
No, it's not the word of God.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be wrong about a number of things, but
Excellent.
I don't think he's wrong about the kind of the basis of, we're going to start with, we're not going to abandon Christ as Lord in order to try to defend Christ as Lord. We're not going to give it up in order to try to defend it. And that is what classical apologetics is better. The whole evidential apologetics basically says, okay, we're going to come to this neutral point, and I'm going to try to convince you with a pile of evidence. But of course, evidence is all. And the facts don't actually speak for themselves. Facts have to be interpreted. Okay, things have to be interpreted, and they have to be understood. And when
all right,
right?
Yeah. Okay, continue. This is a very murky area for me, but I've heard a lot of these ideas. But please do continue.
This is that a fact is something. I mean,
what
makes something a fact? It's like, is there anything that is a fact that is not disputable?
Well, let's talk about the true creator before creation, because it seems at that point, or whatever describes that state of affairs, that entity had all knowledge and understanding of all fact, but that interpretation was unnecessary. It seems like at that point that in fact, in reality, before creation of anything other than the creator, there are still facts. Facts exist. The fact of the existence of the creator is a fact and requires no interpretation. Is that right? Because I'm trying to understand. This comes up a lot, and I don't understand what is meant by this line of conversation.
Right. God has, that facts don't speak for themselves.
That all facts are interpreted. But God's existence spoke to himself about it. Please, take your time.
No, was it just a short round of judgment against your persona, saying that you don't believe what you're preaching? Like if you believed on the spaghetti monster, and that was a topic for a brief second. So.
I don't preach the reality of the flying spaghetti monster, but I preach, algebra, right? And when we're trying to find an unknown and we say X, and so that's like saying I'm an Xist. And then like asking the Xist if they believe that X really exists. It's like, well, what do we mean by X? Like, do I believe X exists after I've written this algebraic equation? Yes, X means this. But do I believe that there is one prime mover? Do I believe there is an uncaused cause? I am unconvinced either way. I must confess that I'm an agnostic Pastafarianism, or Pastafarian.
Well, you could taste and see, brother.
Say again?
You could taste and see.
I can.
You can. Yeah.
But there's many,
you can give your heart over to him and see what he does with it.
To the one true creator?
Yeah.
I have.
You could just try. Okay.
I have. Like,
I mean,
if there is one true creator, and there is no good outside of him, I do, and there is no truth. In fact, watch out behind you, something interesting is happening. Have a look.
Oh.
Be careful. If it is true that there is one true creator, I want to communicate with that entity. And if he doesn't want to talk to me under the guise of the flying spaghetti monster, I'd like to know why. Because it seems like he should be able to talk through nonsense. We will move. Unless you don't want to move, in which case I didn't mean to speak for you.
No. Yeah.
And so really I'm just talking about it as a way to think about these ideas. Do I think the flying spaghetti monster created all reality? I'm unconvinced either way. I'm unconvinced whether there is a creator or not. I'm not sure that we have the tools to examine that, and I think that's the way the creator created the thing to be.
Well,
so
what's the building block? I mean, when they discovered DNA, that's basically instructions, right? So volumes, books, there's
sort of.
That's
but you can also say that the molecules are instructions as well, because a hydrogen atom has only one element or electron in its thing, and that tells it in which ways it's capable of reacting. So it's hard when you say instruction to really understand what that means. I'm not sure instruction is evidence of a watchmaker, as it were. But I do want to know. I genuinely
write them. The books write themselves. I mean,
man, today it seems like some do. Today it seems like some of these books are randomly generated. The ones that I'm reading. Television, it seems, is just a machine that we can't stop at this point. But no, I understand the watchmaker analogy, but the problem is, if all things are created, then we really have no means of contrasting a created thing from an uncreated thing, because literally everything is a created thing. So then we would still fall back on the idea of like which ones are God created and which ones are human created, and then why not call that God nature?
All goes
I don't
back
understand.
To God.
Right, but
whatever we make too is it's all glory. It's all made by Him through us.
I hear what you're saying.
We didn't give ourselves life. We didn't give ourselves our bodies.
I hear what you're saying.
That was all a gift.
I understand.
Right?
Yeah. I wonder though if that thing that gave me life is automatically worthy of worship. I wonder what makes an entity worthy of the worship of a person. If it turned out that an evil creator created you, would you still worship that creator?
I would. That's an interesting question.
Thank you, I appreciate that. These are very hard questions. I do like street theology. I am a literal street theologian, and I understand that the way that I go about it causes people to think that I'm doing it in bad faith, but I do assure you, and I can express and prove to you that, no, I think very deeply and seriously about these ideas. And I really wish that I could know the true answers to these questions. And I really do believe there are questions that are unanswerable. And pretending to know an answer to one of the unanswerable questions, I think, is dangerous. And that's literally what I mean about it. I don't mean that you're doing the most evil in the world. I just mean you're doing something that sort of unchecked is very dangerous, and I don't think the Reformed tradition has the capability of checking the very dangerous stuff, including things like thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. That thing is still in the book and can flare up at any time.
I'm not really familiar with the Reformed. I'm not exactly. I don't really subscribe to. I'm just kind of. I became a believer, maybe
a believer in what?
In Jesus Christ.
Excellent. What version of the Bible do you find to speak to you the most?
I generally look at NASB. Sometimes I look at NLT, NKJV, UK James. So I have all those. I have a study Bible. I have a Bible on my phone, and and then I have like a Bible that I also just like sometimes look through.
And these, I assume that these things speak with you. Let's continue the conversation with Patrick here. He seems to be. Unless
The lady's asking us to.
yeah. So shall we move over there? Is that our next move? I mean,
Yeah,
it's up to
maybe.
you. It's up to
Yeah.
you. Take your time. No pressure. Let me.
We just